What is up, YouTube? Mr. Llama SC here, and today we're going to be talking about mercenaries. That's right, a lot of you guys have asked, Mr. Llama, what is the right mercenary for my character? There's so many of them to pick, there's so many to choose from, I don't know what to do with the mercenaries. And while all of my individual written guides and video guides, I talk about mercenaries and the gear and all of that stuff, you can find those on YouTube, on Icy Veins, all of that. I've got that stuff written up and posted. I think a lot of you guys just want a general overall picture of what it is that mercenaries are good for, how to use them, and which ones to go after, just kind of in general. So, with that being said, let's jump into it. The first thing to note about mercenaries is that you can get a mercenary in Act 1, 2, 3, and 5. Okay, so Act 4 doesn't have a mercenary at all. In Act 1, you get bow mercenaries. Okay, so you can have cold arrow and fire arrow. In Act 2, and that comes from Kasha. In Act 2, you go up to Grease, and you can get mercenaries from Grease. And there's 3 different types you can get. Offensive, combat, and defensive. Right now, I don't see any defensive in this list. So, just sometimes you only get 2 of them listed. In Act 3, and those guys are pike warriors, right? So they're going to carry around a big old pike or whatever it is. This is what he looks like. Act 1 is like a little Amazon. She runs around, shoots some range. Act 3 ones are going to be kind of these mage characters. And so they're going to shoot charge bolts or lightning, fireball, or inferno, right? So they're going to be elemental focused. You have cold, fire, light there. And then in Act 5, you get barbarians, and they're just going to be big old brutes that can run around with, holding a big sword, right? Big two-handed sword, whatever it is there, to do some nice damage. And I need to find the soldiers before I can hire. So, didn't save the Babas. But once you save the Barbs, then you can get a Barb mercenary. We don't need to do that right now. But basically, the reason that you're going to find a lot of people love an Act 2 mercenary is because Act 2 mercenaries are the only mercenaries that are going to give you auras, right? So like you can see below my feet right now, I have an aura, and this is Might Aura from my Last Wish phase blade. So if I take that off, I don't have an aura anymore. So the auras that you can get from Act 2 mercenaries are as follows. In normal, you can get Blessed Aim, Prayer, and Defiance. Okay? This is normal and or hell. If you get it in either one of those places, you get Blessed Aim for the offensive. Combat is going to be Prayer, and defensive, I don't even think they have offensive, defensive listed anymore, but regardless, defensive is going to be Defiance. Okay? Really, Blessed Aim is the best one of these 3. It's going to increase the attack rating of both your mercenary, any minions you have, if you're a summoner of some sort, and then your character as well. So if you have a melee character, this can be very nice to get early on and play around with. But even if you have a caster or something, while Prayer is okay and Defiance is okay, they're generally not going to be enough help. Blessed Aim is still usually better because it gives your mercenary more attack rating, makes it better for him to hit. Okay? In Nightmare, you can get Holy Freeze for defensive, which slows everything and pierces cold immunity when it slows. Not pierces, but it's a separate slow from what a cold damage is. So it always works. So it's very good for safety. You can get Might Aura if you get an offensive mercenary, which is what people love. And from a combat mercenary, you get Thorns, which is pretty worthless, right, overall. So Might Aura is going to be massive damage, physical damage to both boost to you and to your mercenary. Defensive is going to give you the Holy Freeze, which is cold and slow, which is a big help for the safety of your character. And Thorns is pretty worthless. Like I say, just don't get Thorns. It's supposed to do damage back to the monsters, but it just doesn't do a lot beyond. So that comes from only the Nightmare Act 2 mercenaries. Now, once again, No other mercenary gives you an aura. So even if an Act 1 mercenary was really nice, or an Act 3 mercenary had good damage, whatever it is, a lot of times nothing really outweighs the ability to get might on your character, or add blessed aim, or have holy freeze to like slow everything and keep it slowed. So that's one of the main reasons that you're going to see these characters right here, always running these Act 2 mercenaries. Now, before I get into some of the gear and all of that stuff, I will say there are exceptions. Some people like to run an Act 5 mercenary because it just can have really nice damage. You can put like a Lawbringer or something like that on him. He can be very, very tanky and do decent damage, so you don't get an aura. But maybe you're running like Last Wish and you have might already, and so you're like, you know what? I'll just give him might, and that'll be good enough, and that'll be fine, right? Additionally, people sometimes love to run an Act 1 mercenary and then give her a faith bow. You can give her a faith in a great bow or a diamond bow. You can't give her a GMB, Grand Matron bow, because that's for Amazons only, but you can give her a different bow with a faith. Yes, it's a little expensive, but that gives fanaticism aura, which increases the damage, the attack rating, all that stuff for her, and then increases your damage overall. So attack speed for her as well. So some people really love that to get the fanaticism aura from her also. So that kind of gives you a couple rare exceptions that you do see here and there. Generally, it's something like if I want to run Wind Force on a Boazon but still want fanaticism, I can give her the faith, get me fanaticism, and then have my Wind Force, you know, things like that. So that's kind of the places that you're going to kind of pick and choose it. A little bit more advanced. 99% of the time, 98% of the time, you're just going to get an Act 2 mercenary, and you're going to most likely get one from Nightmare for the Holy Freeze or the Might. That's generally always going to be your best option. Now, somebody might ask, but won't hiring an Act 2 Nightmare mercenary be weaker than an Act 2 Hell mercenary? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter where you hire it from. It's purely just based off your character level going and hiring the character. There's no like, well, I leveled this guy up from level 1 all the way to level 90, and so he's going to be even stronger than the guy you just bought in normal at level 90. Nope, it doesn't matter. I can literally go hire a guy and he's the exact same strength as yours. There's no like, I raised him Pokemon buff to go along with it. So, with all of that being said, the final thing I'm going to say before we get into gear, and this is related to gear, is if you hire a new mercenary while you have an old mercenary, it says this will replace your current one. If I press yes, oh God, no, no, oh God, I'm just kidding, I did that on purpose. If I say yes, you lose all of the items that the character had, okay? So make sure to always undress your mercenary. If they've got whatever, undress the mercenary first, then hire the new one, then pick the gear up and put it back on the new mercenary, okay? Otherwise, you're going to be super sad when you go and look at your new mercenary and go, where did my items go? Don't do it. I've done it before. We all have. It's a little brutal. So you don't want to do that. Now, speaking of some gear for the mercenary, let's dive into a few options. I already talked about some of these options before, but we can go ahead and talk about some of them now. So the first things are for some weapons for the mercenary. Armors. The best armor you're going to have is Fortitude. This is just the top tier armor. It has 300% enhanced damage on it, which just gives so much damage to your mercenary that it really increases their survivability. Because mercenaries are pretty weak overall, and the best way they survive is literally stabbing dudes, hitting dudes with a bunch of lifesteal so they can survive on their own lifesteal. So Fortitude ends up usually being the best option, an ethereal Fortitude for a little extra defense. This is usually the best option because you do get more life, more resistances, and that massive, massive enhanced damage. Additionally, Treachery is in my opinion, the second best armor for the Mercenary. Some people love it even more than Fortitude. Why? Well, 1, you get Venom, which gives added damage. 2, you get a chance for Fade. So when they proc their Fade, they're going to get damage reduction, 15% damage reduction, and big resistances as well, which makes them extremely tanky and super good. And then you also get some hit recovery, some cold res, but 45 IAS is really nice because, again, how does this character survive? Stabby, 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 stabby. The faster they stab and have life leech, the better. So a lot of people really love Fade. It's a very brokenly good skill, and they think, you know what, having this on the Mercenary is even better, and it's way cheaper. This costs a Lem rune. Fortitude costs a low rune, so very different. If you can't get things like that or you want to try something different, Gladiator's Bane can be fun. It has Canopy Frozen, some hit recovery, but what it really has is this damage reduce and magic damage reduce. And while it is flat 20 and 16, it's actually not bad because that means every time they take a hit, that full damage is getting taken off. So if they're getting hit by a lot of small sources of damage or tick damage or whatever it is, it can really help them in their survivability. There's other great things like Shaft Stop. This is just plus to life and damage reduce, right? It's just super nice for that. You're just getting big damage reduction on it, which is for physical damage, helps their survivability. There's other armors. You could also this is like when you're really early starting out, you could get like a Griswold's and throw some life, throw some rubies in it or something. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. But these are kind of like more upgrades. Then, of course, you have Stone, you have Duriel Shell, you have Leviathan. I mean, there's a lot of armors that you can put on the Mercenary. But the best ones are going to be Treachery and Fortitude, right? For helmets, things with life leech, because again, we're looking for that big life leech. A lot of people like to get it on the helmet. You can also get it on the weapon if you'd like, but it just depends. You want to make sure you have a source of it though. So here you can see, why would this be good? Fire res, plus to life, big life leech. Why would this be good? All resist, plus to life, big life leech. I mean, why would this be good? Plus to life, big damage reduction. Why would this be good? 20 IAS, 10 life leech, 30 strength to help wear some of those big armors. And you do get minus 30 fire res. So a lot of people put a Row rune in this to counteract that. But again, these are kind of your like standard styles of helmets. And this is one of the people's favorite helmets right here. And Dariel's Visage is often the best in slot. And also the plus skills can help the aura, which is nice. And then even something like this cannot be frozen, hit recovery, 70 to all resistances. But you're not getting life leech here, so if you do that, you're going to need something like this where you throw some life leech into a weapon or something to help it to do some more. So here's some examples of some weapons. Bone Hew is nice, 50% IAS, nice enhanced damage, and some life leech, which is really solid. And you can see it's got big damage and good speed. I like Shale Lamb in a Bone Hew. Tomb Reaver, big damage, big IAS, big resistances, very nice, and it has open sockets, so again, you can put shales and AMs and whatever you want in it to beef it up even more. Reaper's Toll. This is a Fastic one, nice life leech, some deadly strike for more damage on top of good damage, ignore target defense, but the big one is the top, chance to cast Decrepify. This is very safe, it can help break physical immunes, but it slows everything down when he hits. People love Reaper's Toll. This is a best in slot item a lot of times for the character. If you're not very rich, but you got a couple runes here and there, Obedience. I mean, this does over 1,000 max damage and has a 30% chance to cast Enchant. So he's going to be enchanted, which gives him more attack rating and more damage. It's a big old damage stick with massive crushing blow right there. Resistances. This is like one of the best, just really low early rune words that you can make. If you're even more poor than this, you could make an honor in a which is Amel Ithtir Soul, I believe. 5 open socket. You could make that into a weapon for him, and that would also be very solid. Definitely lower end, but that's like while you're leveling up, right? You're in Nightmare and things like that. And then, of course, one of the ones that you will see most often for any elemental character, really, lightning zons, javazons, fire sorceresses. I mean, literally, the list goes on. There are many, many, many characters that will use this. Infinity is going, I guess not finally, I have one more. Infinity is going to give you Conviction Aura, which lowers the resistances of monsters. They're fire, cold, and light res. And it's just going to absolutely obliterate stuff. Trap Sins, yeah, I mean, it just obliterates, because when you can lower their res even more, and on top of that, look at the damage on it. It's got big damage on it. It has the crushing blow on it. It has plus vitality. Like, it's still really nice for the character. So he has great damage. You will need to find some way of life leech. So this is where a lot of people like to have like Andy's helm with the infinity or whatever it is. But very, very solid and one of the best rune words in the game. And the last one that I don't have right here would be Insight. And this is going to be another super cheap rune word, Raltier Tal Soul. You can get all of these runes from Nightmare Countess and below. Only the Soul rune is even from there. Everything else is from Normal Countess. And so the only thing is, make sure you don't put it in a spear. I've seen a lot of people get a spear base and put it in there. Make sure it says polearm class, because you want to be putting it in a polearm. Okay. So get a 4-open socket. You can put that in there, and that gives meditation aura. And I think I might have one on the hammer, and I'll have to check. But Insight is fantastic because it's going to give you that meditation aura. No, I don't have it on him. I don't know where I put it. Which is going to give you the it's another obedience mana regen. So you see this a lot of times on hammered ins, on, you know, maybe on like a bone necro, it might have it on a lot of early characters, because it is also really good damage on you know, sorceresses like to use it, cold sources especially and stuff. Any character that's really gonna just be using a lot of mana, burning a lot of mana, it's just such a big mana replenish. It helps you sustain a lot. And it's fantastic and insanely cheap, and again has great damage and stuff. So highly recommended. This is another fantastic rune nerd for kind of that early game for you right there. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers the Mercenaries overall and gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what you would like to have with them, why you want different Mercenaries, and whatnot. The last thing I will do or say is, like I said, they are very fragile. And so one thing that can be super helpful, especially if you have an Enigma, I'm just running Tyrios from Might right now. If you have Enigma, whenever you teleport, you're going to bring your Mercenary with you so you can babysit them a bit. If you don't have Enigma, though, and let's say your Mercenary starts dying and you're like, oh no, I need him to whatever. One, you can just run away and he'll follow you. So you can save him a little bit that way. Additionally, sometimes you step in to help him out, where you just get in the way and take the focus. The third thing that you can do is you can actually feed him potions, either by dragging a potion and putting it on top of his portrait up here, or holding shift and then pressing 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it is. You'll hear him say thanks. Right? And that feeds him a potion immediately. And that is the way that I give him potions quickly. Now, it doesn't always save him, and sometimes he's still going to be too weak. And for that case, I present you with a mercenary bug that exists in this game. And this is where I like to set it up. But you come over here and you lock him in and you say, you're a bad boy, Azrael. You go in timeout and I'm going to run away from you. This is how I remember it. And so you run over to here and he'll teleport to you. And when you do this, what happens is he actually stops becoming targeted by melee monsters in the game. So you'll see these monsters here will not target him. And he almost becomes immortal. because they're only going to target me and they will not attack my mercenary. Now, ranged monsters, Oblivion Knights, things like this will attack him, okay? This bug can also just happen randomly by itself, where if he just gets stuck behind and you keep running and he teleports to you, sometimes it'll just bug by itself, okay? So that's just kind of a like weird thing that we just kind of noticed. And then doing it in the inner cloister, once again, just coming up here and locking him behind the door and running away and then just shutting the door on him. This was just a way to 100% make sure that he did get bugged. So he's not purely invincible. He will still die to that stuff. Monsters still will target you a lot of times, and they'll hit him in the middle of trying to target you. Additionally, if you're like fighting Rakinishu and he hits Rakinishu, the charged bolts from Rakinishu will still hit him. So there's a lot of ways that he can still die. But it'll save him a lot of the time and make him way tankier, because obviously he's not being targeted by like 90% of monsters, 80% of monsters, which is great. So you do have to babysit your mercenaries a little bit as you go through until they really start to get fortitude and, Endarials and a big weapon and all of that stuff. That's going to be kind of the important thing that you're going to need to really make it so you don't have to quite babysit them as much. But even then, even with my like level 99 characters that I've created and gotten things and all of this stuff on, even doing all of this, I still have to watch my mercenary and bring him with me, because if you just leave him in a pack and he gets surrounded and you're not helping him, he can die still, especially in like nasty areas with bad curses. He's, cold, all of that stuff. So very, very important that you help your mercenary out, save him a little bit, and keep him a little bit safe so he's not just getting pounded left and right. So anyways, I think that pretty much covers mercenaries right there. I hope that this was helpful and you learned a little bit. Don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace, everybody.